Hi guys, back for number 6 of the how-to series. In this one's going to be a pretty quick and straightforward one, but I still get asked a lot at work and still see people bringing in gear they're crimped, and it's not right. Some people are still getting a little confused on different crimps and how they work. So what I was going to do is a very quick, simple demo here. Okay, so I've got 2 different wires here. They're going to have 2 different crimps on them. I'll show you both those, and just some mono, and just a basic mono crimp. So this is only the basics, but it should help you out. Okay, so we'll start off with the mono. Right, so you've got mono here. I've just got good old Black Magic. I think it's like 100, yeah, 100 pound. And when you're crimping mono, your crimps are going to be small and silver. Oh, they're not always small. They can get quite big, but it depends on the diameter of your line. But just for the 100, we're just going to be using these small ones. Hopefully you can see that, but they're silver. Okay, generally when it's mono, it's silver. And when you're crimping wire, like that's some 150 pound wire there, multi-strand, they're like a darker color, brown. Okay, so basically silver for mono, brown for wire. Just keep that in mind. You can't really go wrong. It's fairly simple. You can use these ones on wire, and the wire ones on mono, which are fine. The doubles on mono seem to work well, but these ones on wire will corrode after a little while and break and fall apart. So you be wary of that one. Anyway, we're just going to crimp. So what I'm going to do is to show you. Basically, when you start crimping at home, you're going to need a decent pair of crimping pliers. As you can see, the teeth here, different sizes. They're round. Okay. You can get wire ones who got like a little groove in them, but I don't like using those. I'll show you how to use these ones for wire as well. And these are a Jinkai. Yeah, these are Jinkai. I've had these for years. You can see these have been around the block a few times, but they're not worn out. They still crimp well. So basically, you put a crimp on first. Actually, no, I'll start from the start. Make sure you've got a good sharp pair of scissors. Put your mono and the scissors on an angle. Just cut, and make sure it's a nice angle with no edges on it, so it'll fit through the crimp easy. If they're fairly blunt scissors and they squash it down, you're gonna have trouble getting it through the crimp. So make sure it's a nice edge with sharp scissors, and just cut on an angle. It just goes through it really easy. So put the first one on, and in a real world, if I was going fishing, I'd put protector tube and stuff on here, but for the demonstration, I'm not going to worry. And then you put it back through. And when you're putting a crimp back on, make sure there's not a play in there. So once the line goes in and it goes back through, it should be nice and snug, not a lot of play. If you can grab both the lines and the crimp wobbles around, or you see a big gap in there, it's not going to work. And if you're not too sure on what sizes you got for what mono, take the mono you got from home to a tackle shop and ask them to match up a crimp for you. Okay, don't walk in and say, I've got like Black Magic 100 pound, because every different crimp and different brand in mono and crimps, it's all different sizes. You just take a bit of mono in what you want to crimp, and the guys in the tackle shop will just match up the right ones for you. It's easy. Okay, enough of that. So once you got it through, okay, go around, put it back in. You should have a protector tube on there. You can pull it down to whatever size you like. But I'm not going to worry about that. This is the main bit I wanted to show you guys. People, for some reason, get their crimps and put them in flat in here and squash them down. And if you can see that, hopefully you can see that, it doesn't quite look right. Okay. So with the smaller crimps, generally I use a number second one in. Okay. What you do is you stand them up on end. So you put it in end and somewhere in the middle. If they're a longer crimp, you can usually crimp them twice, but since this is only a little short one, it's only going to take one crimp. Okay, hopefully you can see that you stood the crimp up on end. So the 2 narrow bits is like this, going this way, not flat. Now when you go to crimp, just squash them down. Okay, but don't have to squeeze as bejesus out of them. Just nice and snug. And the main thing is when you're crimping with these, don't crimp the ends. Hopefully you can see that, it's so small. But the ends, I crimped in the middle of the crimp here, the ends are flared up. When you flare the ends up a bit, there's no sharp edges. It's not going to cut the mono or anything else. When you crimp the edges, like the edges, and crimp them down flat, that gives them a really sharp edge, and then cut the mono. That's no good. So with the short crimps, just one crimp in the middle like this. If it's a bit longer, you can generally do 2 crimps, but just make sure you flare the ends up. And see how it's on end, how it's standing up. Now that, you saw how easy I had to crimp that. That's done perfectly. That won't pull out. Okay? A bit of practice. And if you're a bit wary of it, you got a bench in your shed, just put a nail in the bench, put the loop on it, just give it a slight pull. If it's gonna, you don't yank it, because every time you yank stuff, it's unnatural. You're gonna break it. Or not all of it, but some of it. But just start pulling. Just give it a bit of weight and pull. You'll know if it's not crimped properly, because the crimp will start sliding down, the loop will get smaller. You'll know it didn't work. Don't stand there and go whack. Just put some tension on it, that's all. Okay. Next one is wire. This one I'm crimping here is a multi-strand. This is 150 pound. I use this for me hook rigs on little blacks. And the crimps I use are a double crimp. Hopefully you can see. Once again, you can see it's a double crimp. So in other words, it's got like a barrel down here and a barrel on top. And I like these crimps for wire because they hold so well. And they're the same deal. So basically, you just go on one tube, bend it back around, and go on the second tube. Okay, like so. And once again, have it standing upright. This one I'm going to go down to the third one. And hopefully in the pliers you can see, it's upright, it's this way. It's not this way, that's wrong. It's this way, the crimp standing up. And same deal, just squash it down. You don't have to use squash the bejesus out of it. But this one's a bit longer crimp, so I'm going to go down twice. Okay, and that's it. You can see it just crimp right down. And it doesn't matter if you flatten the ends out on the wire, you're not going to cut the wire or break it. So if you crimp the ends, don't panic, it's not the end of the world, that's fine. I still like to flare them up a bit on wire, like I did with this end, but I wasn't watching on this end, I flattened this one off. It's not the end of the world, it's fine. Once again, stand your crimps up and crimp down. Don't lay them flat and crimp. That just makes a bloody mess and looks wrong, it's just not right. Okay, so once again, nice and easy. Nothing to it, that's a double crimp. And the last one, sometimes when you get packets of wire, okay, you buy packets, you get the wire, and you get the single crimps, like the single tube. And these ones aren't brown, they're sort of chromey, but they're designed for wire. Okay, so with these ones, all you got to do to get them to work properly is just squash them down flat. They don't have to be anything fancy. You don't have to, like the pliers you buy on the shop, they got little teeth in them, and they'll put a little groove, and yeah, I don't worry about that. So basically, these ones just go through the tube once. This wire's a bit rough on the end, so it's not working properly. Go back through the tube twice, same tube, just in and out. Okay, now you get the gist of it. Make your little loop there, and then with these pliers on the end here, there's a flat bit. It's just flat. So all I'm going to do is just use the end and just flatten it down. Give it a squash, like so, and like so. And that one, I just flatten the crimp. See that? Okay, just flatten them down. That's it. Made your loop. That's not going to pull out either or break. So that's 3 ways of crimping. How easy is that? All you need is a decent pair of crimping pliers, and you can do wire and mono with them. They do have cutters on them. When they're new, they're great, but these ones are getting a bit old. Trying to cut wire with them is not going to happen. So get yourself a decent pair of wire cutters, so you can get a nice clean cut on your wire. You don't want them all furry, otherwise it'll look like that and have bits dangling off it. You don't want that. So get a good pair of wire cutters, a decent pair of crimpers, and you're good to go for crimping wire and mono. It's not hard. Hopefully you can see what I've just done there with the camera. And once again, if you're a bit confused or something what I've done, just ask in the comments and I'll try to explain it or go through it again a bit closer another time. Anyway, I hope you like that one. And, well, I'll see you tomorrow. the next video. Thanks guys, bye.